Hello everyone, my name is Veronica and I'm a voice actor. So I have received numerous requests saying, Veronica, how do I become a voice actor? How do I narrate audiobooks? And that's what I'm here to tell you how to do that. So let's start off with my story and how I even got into this industry, because it's a very interesting industry. So I was part of the group that in 2020, I was a little too bored sitting at home and decided, what can I do with my time? There's nothing to do at home and I wanted to do something fun. So I went on the internet and was like, what can I do at home to earn money, right? Passive income, so to speak. And I found voice acting. And that was my very first step into voice acting. And let me tell you, at that time, it was kind of intense. I wasn't the only one who was doing this, right? There was a whole influx of people at the same time deciding that they too wanted to become a voice actor. And so the competition was quite brutal, right? Everybody was building their home studios. It was now a thing, what people were doing. And I started it. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have any community. I had absolutely no help getting started. I just Googled it and hoped for the best. I bought the cheapest mic I could off of Amazon for 15 bucks. It was trash, by the way. Do not do that. Get a good mic. This is a good mic. This has given me work. Your little cheap microphone off of Amazon for 15 bucks would do absolutely you no justice. So I started off not knowing what I was doing. At first, I started auditioning with the microphone in my laptop. Let me tell you, that was awful. Next, step up. I was auditioning with a cheap $15 microphone that did absolutely terrible job. Next, I bought a Blue Yeti. Boom, finally. I thought, that's it. I have a Blue Yeti. I will be making millions. I did not. A Blue Yeti is not a bad microphone for very beginners, but I don't recommend it if you want to actually create this as your profession or become an actual renowned voice actor in this industry. So I would buy an XLR microphone, but we can get into that later. So that was kind of the start of my journey. I got an offer with my terrible $15 microphone to do a 10-hour audiobook royalty, which means they did not pay me anything up front. It was supposed to be like I do the audiobook and then every time somebody buys it, I get 50% of that price, whatever. I didn't know that was such a terrible deal, and as never doing an audiobook in my entire life, I was like, yes, I have work, I am famous now. So I did that. It took me months, I think 2 months to do it, and after I did it, I was like, this sucks. I absolutely hated it. I had no time I didn't know how to edit it. I sounded like trash. I was like, who's gonna buy me? But I was already signed the contract. In the end, that book is still up online. And let me tell you, not a single person bought my audiobook narration. After I spent 2 months on that stupid thing, nobody bought it. Sucked so much. And so that was a cornerstone, and I said, you know what, screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. This is terrible. For about 1.5 years, I stopped. I didn't do it anymore. So then I decided and also I couldn't really do it because we moved to an apartment. The apartment was in a very loud neighborhood. There was also cars beeping and a walk-in closet in my old house. And then I moved to an apartment that literally just had a shook and that's it. You had nothing else. So there was no way for me to record good audio at all. And then I got a private request to do a video game for a character. And this character had an Eastern European accent. And so that's the reason why they gave me the private invite, because I can do the Eastern European accent. And I did it, and then boom! They chose me, which I was actually very surprised. That little moment gave the spark back into my life, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I am cut out for this. Maybe I should become a voice actor. So I did it. I did the job, and people are playing these video games, and they hear my voice when they're playing it. And this game is still out on Steam, but I think they replaced me. That was my second gig, and that's actually when I started going back into it. Then I tried to make my makeshift studio. I still had the Blue Yeti. I put little, moving blankets around me, and I built almost a fort, and I was like under this little thing with my little microphone recording. And then my next offer was once again an audiobook, but this time I just started recording it just because I was bored. I had nothing to do. I was like, well, let me just do a few auditions. If I get it, I get it. If not, no hard feelings, right? The first audition I did, I got the role. But with the second one, I actually was doing a lot more research. I was looking at a lot more content. I actually had a community that was helping me out. I was finally in a community, which is the number one tip I have, please be in a community. It helps so much. If any questions you have, any concerns you have, somebody's there to help you. I didn't have that when I started, and that was the very worst thing that I could have done as a beginner voice actor, so don't do that. I actually started researching, doing a lot more work with what it means to record an audiobook. So I actually looked more into how to edit my audiobook properly, how to record properly, how to master it, how to make sure my voice sounds the best that it can possibly be. And I did so much more work that audiobook actually turned out pretty decent, I would say, with my little Blue Yeti mic. And after that, I started to really put myself into voice acting. So that was a little snippet of how I started. And let me tell you some things that you can use to also become an audiobook narrator. Audiobooks is a great niche to get into, but know this. It is part of the voice acting umbrella, audiobook narration, but it's a similar concept of running a marathon. So voice acting in itself isn't extremely difficult. I know that some people might be like, no, it's so hard to do. I had years of training. Yes, I understand that. But in a sense, voice acting, you have a character and you read 1 minute worth of lines. Boom. But there's other parts of it, but that's the generalized concept. With audiobook, you have to read a 3-hour, let's say a standard audiobook is about 2 to 3 hours, like one of the smaller ones, maybe like a lifestyle book, whatever. 3 to 2 hours of finished audio. That doesn't include the full audio. That 2 hours, rule of thumb, might take you 3 times longer to record. So that 2 hours will take you 6 hours to record. Imagine speaking for 6 hours straight. That is quite difficult to do. So that's how come if you go into audiobook narration, know this, it'll be hard. It takes a lot of practice to understand the breathing techniques. It takes a lot of practice to understand how to read the script properly, how to go through it. And I still make mistakes. I'm not a professional. Those people, whoo, I got 10 out of 10. Finally, I'm sorry for the long intro, but finally, how do I become a voice actor? Or specifically in the audiobook narration spectrum. So first one, you need to work on your voice. The essence of becoming a narrator is to have a good voice. So practice reading out loud with the clarity, the pacing, the emotional. Make sure your voice is crisp. That's kind of what you have to do. You don't want to hear a you have to have crisp voice. Record yourself and hear how you sound. Not everybody likes to hear themselves, but that's just the essence of what you have to do. When you record yourself and you listen back, take note of what you sound like. Let's say you might have a slight lisp on the letter S. Maybe you have to open your mouth more. Maybe you have to say different words differently, or maybe your tempo is off. Maybe you just rush through the words and you listen back, you're like, oh, this is terrible. So listen back and take notes of what you need to work on. And then also a generalized rule of thumb, warm up your voice before recording. If you wake up in the morning and go straight to the booth and start recording, your voice is gonna sound groggy, and just don't do that. It's just gonna ruin the first 10 minutes of you recording. Just don't do that. Part 2. Understanding the storyline and the characters. So in order to narrate a book, you have to know the characters of the book. You actually have to read the book. You have to know what the storyline, what is the plot, what is the different characters, and if there's more than one characters, you have to have different voices for them, and you have to be distinguishable. So if there's 2 girls, you can't have the same voice for 2 of the girls. You have to make them distinguishable. Maybe one might be more lower voice and lower register. Maybe the other one is more like, hi, how are you? But you have to make them distinguishable, and that's honestly a little bit of a difficult part. If you're a voice actor and you already know how to do voice acting and you want to get into audiobooks, it's easier. But if you've never done it, it might be hard. So that's something you have to work on. You have to read emotions without overreacting. So you have to portray anxiety or fear or love without overdoing it. So it doesn't feel fake. So you have to know how to feel truthful in whatever you're reading. When the listener listens to your audio, they actually feel immersed in the audio and not feel like as if they're just being lied to, right? That's the one thing that you don't want them to have. And you should try reading fiction and nonfiction just to get a feel of how that kind of style works for you. I did both. I did nonfiction and fiction. I did a nonfiction cookbook, almost like a blog type cookbook. And it's great. It's actually easier because you don't have to have different storylines. You just read and make the audience kind of understand what you're trying to say in your cookbook. Fiction, on the other hand, I did a young adult fantasy that's a lot more complex. You have to be able to distinguish, like I said, the characters, the emotions, the plot, the tone, tonality. So try both and see what works for you. Third part, and honestly the most important thing, set up your home studio, unless you're actually going to like a studio, which I kind of doubt you are, but set up a home studio. You don't need super fancy equipment. When I started, I had a Blue Yeti USB microphone, which is fine. It worked, it did some jobs, but of course, as like I got a better microphone, hence my Rode NT2, which actually not a lot of people use Rode NT2, so I don't know, but it works for me, right? So yes, you don't need the most fanciest equipment, but you do need equipment. So a mic, a pretty good condenser microphone. You can start off with a USB mic, but I always recommend XLR microphones because they make your voice sound better and more crisper, and the audio quality is better overall. Depending on microphone, you might need an audio interface. So if you have a USB, you don't need an audio interface. But if you have my XLR microphone, then yes, you need an audio interface because the connection does not go straight into the computer. You actually need like a middleman to connect your microphone, and the middleman connects to. Hey guys, so this is day 2. Unfortunately, yesterday my audio just stopped working. So it was just me blabbing for another 10-15 minutes with absolutely no sound, which is so ironic given the fact that I was talking about microphones and interfaces at this exact moment and my system just stopped working. I don't know if it was the recording software system, but sorry about that. I'm gonna get back into what I was saying. So I was talking about audio interface and you got the gist of what I was saying. Now I'm talking about the recording software. You have to use a specific recording software in order to be able to edit and master your audio. You can use just your simple voice recorder on your computer. However, if you want to omit something or delete something from that audio, you won't be able to. It's very difficult to do. So having a DAW, digital audio workstation, it's going to really help you. There's different types. There's Audacity, which is a free one. That's actually what I use still, and it's amazing. I love it. There's other ones, which is Reaper, and there's more professional ones that are more like Adobe Edition, but those ones already are subscription-based, or you have to buy to use it, so you have to see what your budget is and go from there. Sound treatment, I think, is the most important thing, because you might have a great mic, you might have a great digital recording software. However, if you have bad sound treatment, no one's gonna wanna hire you. Boom, there we go. So you need to have a studio. Some people just use a walk-in closet with all their clothes, which works great, and it's the perfect thing to do on a budget. But if you don't have a walk-in closet, or you have absolutely no space in your closet to do this, you can do what I did, which is DIY my sound booth. I used Rockwool, which is a insulation type. I put it in I made canvas and pillowcases, stuffed it inside, made little ridges so it doesn't all fall to the ground, and it works amazing. Yes, it took time. Yes, I had to showcase my sewing skills, which I'm gonna be honest is not that great, unfortunately, but hey, we did it and it works. That's what matters. It works. So you have to treat your audio. You can use your closet clothes, you can get an actual Rockwool insulation, you can use foam panels. I don't really recommend foam panels because they don't actually do that great of insulating, and the sound quality isn't gonna be the best no matter how many panels you put on your wall. So I would just recommend either moving blankets or anything like this. All right, next thing, you need to create a demo reel. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You just need to be able to showcase whoever you're reaching out to or whatever site you're signed up for, what you can do. People are not gonna hire you or gonna wanna work with you if they have no idea what you sound like. So you have to do something or create something to showcase them what you can do, whether it's animations, whether it's audiobooks, whether it is video games, whether it's commercial. You just need to create a demo reel. In the beginning, you can just create a very generic demo reel, maybe a little music, little like SFX sound stuff. It's very easy. It just gets the point done. Later in your career, you can go ahead and create more professional demo reels. So that is actually going to be paid, and they're unfortunately not cheap. So that's already later in your career life, but I just recommend you starting off, have something put in together, 4 or 5 characters that you can do, or specific with audiobooks, 4 to 5 snippets of different audiobooks and different styles, so these authors or anybody else can actually see what you can do and what your work looks like. So after you get your demo reel is when you can actually start getting work. So there are different places to look for these jobs. Specifically with Audiobook, ACX is a great beginner platform. That is where it's a middle ground between authors and narrators where talk with each other. Authors can put a posting of what they want, and you as a narrator can audition for their book, for their posting, whatever, and then the author goes ahead and chooses whoever they like the most. So it's a really great way to connect with authors, but recently there's been some issues with that where there's a lot of people who use AI, unfortunately, to generate their books. And you just have to be cautious. You don't really want to be narrating AI-generated books because, for one, they're terrible. They sound terrible. Nobody's going to want to listen to them. And it's not good to have on your portfolio any AI books. So just be careful with that. Another place where you can also find any jobs, there's pay-to-play websites. So like voices.com, Voices123, Bunny Studios. Those are some pay-to-play websites that you can use. However, with pay-to-play, you have to pay to be able to audition. So the upfront costs are usually not cheap. With voices.com, I think it's $500. I mean, it's crazy. There's also some controversy with voices.com at the moment with their whole AI thing. You take it as you will, whatever you want to do, right? And then there's also Voices123, same concept. You have to pay in order to audition. Then there's also freelance websites like Fiverr and Upwork that you can create your profile for them to people to reach out to you. Also a great resource. It's a little bit oversaturated in my personal opinion, but that's also something that you can do to just test out the water, see how that works, and maybe it might go amazing for you. But those are some places you can do to find work. Also, I reached out to a very good renowned narrator and asked him for advice where to find work. There's not so many places. And he said, Amazon, best place you can find authors. Every day, thousands of books get published on Amazon. You can go ahead, go to Amazon, find a book or niche or genre that you like, reach out to that author and be like, hey, or if the author doesn't have an audiobook, just by the way, reach out to the author and be like, hey, I absolutely love your book, or your book is so intriguing, I would love to narrate your audiobook. These are my rates, and here's my demo reel. Boom, you can just reach out to them. And so that's how this really great audiobook narrator finds all of his work, is just reaching out directly to these authors. There's so many authors that are scared to take this next step, and you can be there to help them through that. So great tip right there. And the next thing is you have to keep learning, because the industry always changes. Every day there's new trends. Every day people like different things. For instance, in the commercial world, used to be 10 years ago, it was the thing to be announcer reads. Welcome to this store's annual sale. We have just the right clothes for you, from kids sections to adults, whatever. That used to be the style of announcing reads, right? Now everything's become conversational, like John Krasinski conversational. You want some new clothes for your new school year? Well, come on by. We have the best clothes for you and your children. Something like that. And so things change. The industry changes. So you have to keep learning. And the ones who are always in the know are the ones who always get the work. So just FYI. You also need to create a website. I would recommend to create a website, a place where authors can go and see your work. As I mentioned, the demo reel, very important, but sometimes you can't always send them the demo reel. A website's great. You put a website, who you are, why you do this, what equipment you use, and some demo reels. Maybe you have a few on there, maybe you have some work that you did, maybe a resume, maybe you have some testimonials. Put everything on your website. I recommend everyone to do a website. Pretty much with that being said, you need to build a brand. You are practically marketing yourself. You are marketing you, your voice, your talents, your personality, your demeanor, everything. You're marketing yourself. So you have to build yourself a brand, whether it's on social medias or whether it's on YouTube, whether it's some other platforms. You have to create your brand. That is the biggest advice I can give to you in order to be able to find work and be a successful audiobook narrator. So I hope these tips have helped. I hope this answered some questions. If you have any more questions, comments, concerns, whatever it may be, reach out to me. I would love to answer them. I'm still a small creator, so I will try to get through everyone to anyone, no matter who it may be. So hope this helps. Don't forget to subscribe and wait for my next video. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.